Hello, everybody, and welcome to Positive Fandom, and welcome to the Burnettwork. I am RM, and tonight we have with us today Darth Plato. Darth Plato, how are you?
I'm good. It's a nice, surprisingly rainy but warm at the same time warm day. Kind of a bit of busy day, so I'm looking forward to watching the movie.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well, Darth Plato. You and I have been covering so many fantastic historical movies over the last year or two, and it's been a wonderful ride. Recently, you and I reviewed Napoleon, the movie that has come out in the cinemas just a few weeks ago. And now we're reviewing a movie from 1970, Darth Plato, Waterloo from 1970. Darth Plato, what can you tell us about this film? I've never seen it. I've heard of it, but I know nothing about it. Do you have any insights or thoughts about the film before we get started?
Well, it was made by I think it was made by the same director that did War and Peace. He might have been replaced in the project. It was shot in Ukraine. There was a number of places they wanted to shoot the movie, but they settled on Ukraine for some reason. I'm not sure if it had to do with rights or if it was a cost reason, but that's where it was. There were a lot of extras on this movie. I think I might be wrong about this, but I think it's the largest number of costume extras in any movie even to this day, and that probably will remain, given digital being what it is. So it's probably going to have like a Gettysburg feel to it that we watched before. A lot of extras.
Yeah, that is very interesting points that you make about the film. I was completely unaware of that. And of course, I just love, if you go, guys, to the main page, you'll see the poster art for it, which my face is covering, but it's fantastic poster art of Waterloo. And because it is specifically talking about that battle, which I'm assuming, Plato, I expect to see a lot of detail in this. You mentioned the incredible amount of extras, the most ever. I'm also going to be on the lookout for that. This film is about 2 hours. I don't know whether there was ever an extended version, but I'm so excited, Darth Plato, to see what's in store for this film. I've never seen it. Have you seen it, Darth Plato?
Oh, several times.
Okay. So you know what's in store. I have
Oh yeah.
no idea. I'm excited for this. We've been doing these watch parties and really enjoying ourselves, talking about the history and also the cinematic effect that many of these films will have, with people pretty much focusing on watching films these days. I know a lot of people will probably most likely see that Napoleon film that came out, but if you're interested and have another chance to watch something else, check out this Waterloo film that we're watching from 1970. Guys, we have the counter on right here at the bottom. It says we're at 20 seconds, and we're going to start this film. Darth Plato, are you ready?
Beam. Let's do it.
Okay, everybody press play now. All right, so you should see something that says Napoleon Bonaparte, inspiring his own people with his military and political genius and his revolutionary fervor, became within a few brief years emperor of the French and master of all Europe. The music is wonderful too. In 1812, after 15 years of victory, he met with disaster in the Russian campaign. By 1813, defeated by the combined forces of Austria, Russia, Prussia, and England at Leipzig, Napoleon was driven to the very gates of Paris, there to await his destiny. This is so exciting.
Yeah, I don't think the English were at Leipzig, but that's a minor point.
Yes.
And so Napoleon is being portrayed by Rod Steiger.
Mhm.
I believe the scene is in Italy. The architecture. So the battle scenes itself are in the Ukraine, but this I believe is in Italy. That's a grenadier.
And hello, Daniel Berry out there. Hello to you
Yeah, these are
tonight.
very good costumes.
Yeah, that's this looks great, and of course the setting is fantastic as well. But Fontainebleau, Wednesday, April 20th, 1814.
Yeah, I don't think he actually wore glasses, but that's fine. Yeah, I don't know if the subject of Elba had been broached by this time. That's an interesting detail. I'll have to look into that. Yeah, this scene is what's called the Marshals' Revolt, and I believe it took place outdoors. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, he's presaging the future there. He wouldn't have said that.
And hello to Tom Jr. Jackson, who says hello and please click the like and subscribe buttons. Hi, Tom. Hope you are well. We are all good people, Tom.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for moderating. Look at those costumes.
It looks incredible.
I
Even the
think they're
lighting is,
referring. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was saying, even the lighting is nice.
Yeah, it seems more natural, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe he's referring to Marshal Marmont. Marmont made a deal with the Allies and surrendered Paris.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we can hear Darth Plato, we can hear the quill scratching against the paper. Really nice.
It is, yeah. This is already a better movie than what we saw 3 weeks ago. Yeah, what the scene doesn't tell you is that he actually tried to commit suicide several hours before this, and it wasn't related to the war. It was related to the fact that his wife had fled with his son to Austria. All right, so this is his farewell speech to the guard. This really happened. And there's the title.
Yes.
Quite possibly the most famous battle in the history of mankind.
Yes. I like the music too, Darth Plato. It's really good.
Yeah, it's orchestra, triumphant orchestra. Yeah.
Hmm. And of course, we all know Dino De Laurentiis. After 10 months, Napoleon escaped from Elba. In a desperate gamble with less than 1,000 men, he invaded the mainland of Europe. Yes. It's not over yet.
Yeah, so they're jumping. Yeah, they should jump 10 months. Yeah. No, they didn't show Josephine at all in this movie. Josephine had in between this time had died.
Mm.
As Orson Welles as Louis XVIII. That's a good depiction of him. He had severe gout by this time in his life, and he couldn't walk around and he couldn't walk around on his own power. He had to be carried around. Yeah, he really did say that.
And did he do that?
He said that he would bring Napoleon back in an iron cage.
And I guess what I'm asking is, was he able to do that inevitably?
No. So there was a lot of tension between the changing over of Napoleon's regime to the Bourbon regime, and the Bourbons had thought about settling accounts, but the British persuaded them to just let it go. If the war is over, let the war be over, and just let it go. And so, as a way of showing that bygones were bygones, they went out of their way to recruit some of Napoleon's former commanders into the regime. That's why you see Soult and Ney there as part of that effort, instead of being in a prison or shot somewhere. This is someplace south of Grenoble, I believe. I believe this is where the scene was. I don't mean the scene in the movie. I mean the event itself in history.
Such a beautiful shot.
It is. I don't know if there are quite that many of them, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm so happy. He's back.
That's a lot of extras.
Yay. There's absolutely no doubt where the allegiance of those soldiers stands.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. A little jarring that they're speaking English, honestly.
At least they're trying to capture the excitement and joy of the moment for these people.
Yeah, the monarchy had fled by this time.
Burning the king in effigy.
Yeah. Louis the 18th. Honestly, this scene should have happened before the previous one.
The cheering, like it's almost deafening, isn't it?
He was a rock star. It was like that when he visited Dover too. They weren't waving French flags, but they were excited to see him. He had that effect on people. It's precisely because of this that he was sent into exile to St. Helena later on.
Because they didn't want people to see him and get excited. Is that it? Like he created excitement and
Yeah,
stirred.
That's right. He freely went to England because he thought that they would just let him live there in peace. But when London officials saw the crowd reaction to him being there, they thought we can't let him stay here, so they sent him to St. Helena. Fichet was not there by that time, I don't think. No, not a bit. Yeah, Drouot. Yeah, that guy was one of their best soldiers. Yeah, a lot of historians have criticized Napoleon for making Soult his chief of staff. Yet he
I'm sorry.
wasn't.
Can you repeat that? I didn't hear it.
Some historians have criticized Napoleon for making Soult his chief of staff because he wasn't that kind of a general. He was an outdoors battlefield general. He wasn't a bureaucratic sit behind the desk kind of general. And so Soult's mismanagement of the coming campaign is has been criticized.
About for a film that's a little bit over 2 hours, this first 30 minutes has gone by rather quickly.
Yep. Well, they covered a full year in 30 minutes. And Napoleon movie that was like what 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh, see what he said there about I found it in the gutter. Yeah, he really did say that at his coronation. That's an interesting way of putting it. It's kind of like saying that a mob that wins is called a nation.
And hello, Ms. Martin Muses. Sure hope you are doing well these days. Good to see you. We are watching Waterloo from 1970. We're at the 30-minute mark right there in our counter. Hope you are well, Ms. Martin Muses. Such a pleasure to see you here tonight.
This is a good scene. I can see him doing that. That's true.
An enemy of humanity?
That's true. When the Congress of Vienna was still going on at the time, and they were very careful in their wording. They said they didn't want to word it that they were going to war against France. They worded it so that they were going to war against him personally. So in other words, to give the French the mind that they don't have to follow him.
Mm-hmm.
That's unique. There'd never been anything like that before. Yeah, he was officially declared an outlaw.
Those uniforms look amazing. Amazing,
Yes.
Darth Plato.
Amazing.
Just
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, his old 19th century bathtub.
Yeah, Julian Mushkin is here who says, promote this man to corporal. He knows how to defend a poor position. Love this movie. And cheers. Well, cheers to you, Julian Mushkin. Going to see you tomorrow night on For All Mankind review. Good to see you tonight.
Oh, this is supposed to be the Duchess of Richmond Ball. Okay. I was going to say earlier, I'll say it now. This movie is overly stylized. So they are exaggerating a lot of what happened. And this is a perfect example of this. That is way too nice a looking place for where this ball was held. The actual ball was held inside a coachman's construction depot. So it didn't have
I hear you, but I
chandeliers.
love it. I love it, Darth Plato. I love the way it looks. Don't you love it though?
Yes,
It
it
looks
does look
good.
great, but that's not where it was held. It was a very makeshift thing that was thrown together at the last minute.
Glances across the ballroom.
Yeah, there weren't that many ladies there. There was probably maybe 25 ladies there. There were probably about 250 men. There weren't that many. I believe they call this Cock of the North. It was raining out, so yeah, it was. It was torrential rain that day on the for much of that week. I don't know if it was raining that moment, but it was really bad rain that entire week. Man, man, he did. Yeah, he really did say that. I think that guy's name is Lord Hay, the young guy. Yeah, this is a very idealized portrayal of Wellington, unfortunately. The real guy was, shall we say, quite possessed with padding his own image. Then again, so was this man. So what the show isn't really telling you is that there's a massive force massing in the east, Russia, Prussia, Austria. So you're looking at about maybe 600,000 men marching on France. So what Napoleon is doing is he's trying to hit the Prussians and the British before they can unite into one large group and march on France from the north, giving France more than one front to deal with. So he's trying to knock out a possible second front here and now before it becomes an issue later. That's really the reason why he's making this march. Look at this weather.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, there was a battle going on. I think right about this same time, the French were at Charleroi. That was the first battle of the campaign. The Prussians heard rumors that the French were marching north, so they went down to look at it. And sure enough, they were in force. And that's when it was sometime after that the riders went out. So riders went to Blucher. Blucher didn't believe the rumors, but somebody on his staff had the good sense to send word to Wellington. So it was right about this time of the evening. Yeah, his name is Hay. Yeah. Oh, that's the anachronism. See that statement? I wanted to wear I wanted to wear white before black. Yeah, that's an anachronism. Brides didn't wear white until I think the 1840s. Then Picton was the head of the Fifth Regiment, I think. This scene's really long.
Yeah.
This is like a Versailles size place. Yeah, I'm sorry, but this is way too exaggerated. Beautiful, but it's exaggerated. I wonder where that really is, though. That's a nice room. That's true. It was a Prussian officer that delivered the news. That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was quite that old.
And Julian says it's a good contrast for the carnage,
Oh, no, he did not. He did not know that Napoleon crossed the border. That's false.
which will follow.
Yeah, this scene actually took place earlier in the episode. The well, not the episode, but the earlier in the ball. I mean, so he has gotten some criticism for not leaving right away. So I'm not entirely sure it's fair criticism. There's something to be said for make looking like everything's fine. But many of the officers did leave.
No, you don't want to go with the army, my dear.
I don't know if that's actually true. Do you allow ladies to go to Spain? I'm not sure that's actually true.
She may never see him again, but there are plenty of other soldiers.
Yeah, that's yep. They retreated to the study to discuss what we're going to do. Yeah, that's what happened.
And guys, we're at 47 minutes into the film already. Darth Plato, this is going rather quickly. But I think the reason why the film seems to be slipping by rather quickly is because it's entertaining to watch.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a wonderful movie. But whatever criticism I have of it is outweighed by the quality of the movie. Be assured. Charlotte was a pretty minor engagement. I don't know if it would have been quite that. Just yeah, that's way too much destruction for what really happened at Charleroi. That's a good depiction of him, actually. No, he retreated to. No, that's not true. Yeah, Blucher wasn't at Charleroi. He was at Ligny, waiting for news, and that's where the next battle took place. He didn't decide. He didn't decide to retreat to Wild. That was actually somebody else's decision. But whatever. It's just a movie. That's it. That's all he says. Eesh. Yeah, they could have did that scene better. Yep. Yeah, he really did say that. Yeah. He was afraid. He was afraid of what the papers thought of him. Like I said, he was constantly trying to pad his image, so he was always making comments about that. Yeah, he said that. That's true.
The troop movements do add a lot to the experience.
Hmm?
The troop movements
Oh yes.
do add a lot to the experience.
Yeah. Yeah, this is much better than what we saw a few weeks ago. Yeah, I don't think he really said that, but whatever. There's something to be said for having a natural barrier at your side. These are the Innis killing. Yeah, they were the Irish. Yeah, these poor guys. Yeah, this Irish regiment suffered the highest casualties of any unit.
Oh,
Yeah, greater than 90%. I don't know if that's what they were worrying though. He's not kidding. Yeah, when Wellington was in charge of the army in Spain, he hanged 118 of his own men, many of them for petty crimes. But he was known for being a draconian when it comes to discipline.
And hello to Mr. Fixit, who's here as well. Mr. Fixit, we hope you are well tonight. Guys, we are at 57 minutes. You can see the counter right here. 57 minutes into the film. It's about a 2-hour film. We're about halfway through already. I can't even believe it, Darth Plato.
A good movie will make you feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically what he did was he detached almost 1/3 of his entire army to chase the Prussians. And that's a significant bump. That's about 33,000 men. That's a significant number.
Oh.
Yeah, the movie doesn't do a good job explaining that. This is a good scene. Something like this really did really happen. Yeah, Muffling. That was the guy's name. Yeah, the Prussian liaison. Uxbridge. Yeah, another thing movie doesn't tell you is Wellington and Uxbridge, his second in command, they didn't get along really. When they were younger, Uxbridge eloped with one of Wellington's relatives, and he nearly challenged him to a duel. And Wellington never really forgave him for that. And so he was very arm's length with Uxbridge, and he never once invited Uxbridge to any of his meetings or explained to him what he intended to do. So Uxbridge was always in the dark about what the army was doing, even though he was the second in command. Yeah, Wellington was the kind of guy who could hold a grudge. Oh yeah, okay. What they're doing here is this is something that French historians have tried to push. This is kind of BS that Napoleon was his health was failing,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're trying to explain why he seemed lethargic, going into the battle. But that was just something that they were trying to get their minds around back in that day. There's reasons why Napoleon made the decisions that he made, and they couldn't understand at the time. So they would just speculate, oh, maybe he wasn't feeling well, and next thing you know, it was appearing in all the history books. So that this is very exaggerated what they're doing here about him not feeling well. His health was not bad. He averaged 7 hours a day on horseback. He was feeling fine.
Wow, that's impressive.
So the movie is trying to be neutral in how they're depicting things. They're taking Buddhist historians, they're taking French historians, and they're trying to put it together and trying to make it look balanced. The problem is that the history on both sides is stylized and exaggerated. And and as I said before, the last time we talked about this, Napoleon is quite possibly the most polarizing figure in the history of mankind, aside from any religious figures, of course. So people have a knack for bending over backwards to defend him, or just going out of their way to criticize him. There's really no middle ground, and very little middle ground in Napoleonic scholarship. It's really a dog eat dog kind of world there. It's really shocking.
So then, is there any group of people who are going out of their way to romanticize him?
Oh yes, that's what we're seeing. Everything we're seeing here is a romanticized portrayal. That's what I was trying to say about it's overly stylized. Wellington's depiction is very romanticized. It doesn't really show his. He was very curt with people. He wasn't always very flattering. He had a knack for insulting people to their face. He wasn't as well mannered as they're trying to make him look like. That's just the fact. And he wasn't as calm as they were making him out to be. Well, the day after he heard about Charleroi, he was running around. Well, not literally running, but he was moving around quickly and exclaiming, "I've been humbugged! I've been humbugged! I lost a whole day's march! I lost a whole day's march!" And he was witnessed by about 50 people, so it's well attested. So after the war was over, he went into retirement. He spent the next 20, 30 years trying to track all these people down and threaten them, cajole them, flatter them, bribe them, whatever he needed to do to get them to change their testimony about this. Because he would, like I said, I've said it 3 times so far. I'll say it again. He was obsessed with padding his image. And if someone wrote a negative piece about him in the newspaper, he would challenge it. He would say he would meet him and imply that there would be a duel.
Wow.
Yeah, he was obsessed with Napoleon. During the intervening years between 1814 and 1815, he he met with Napoleon's sister and bought her house. And he bought her house for the express purpose of meeting her in the first place, so he could throw a pass at her. And she did decline him. And that house today serves as the French embassy. It's going to be the British embassy in Paris. And he talked to people that knew Napoleon, and he said, who were his lovers, who were his go-to girls, and he wrote down the list. He had the whole list of people, and he tried to track them all down so that he could sleep with them all, and then say, so who's better? And he did this a couple of times. And he
Oh
really
my
did do that.
gosh, the
Yeah,
audacity of it. I love it.
yeah, he really did do that. You don't get that sense at all
That
from the from this movie that he's like that.
that is audacious. And you don't hear many people challenging, the ex-girlfriends of their enemies in in who performs better. I mean,
Yep.
I have to say, that deserves its own film.
Yeah. He was quite a character, Wellington. But then again, so is Napoleon. Okay, so I think we are on the 18th. Now, they completely skipped the Battle of Ligny. The Battle of Ligny was kind of a big deal, but they skipped over that apparently. So what you saw Charleroi earlier, they just they combined those two events. So instead of two battles, we saw one. So they're just doing that to make the movie go faster, but that's fine. So it is true they did have breakfast together like this. He was very relaxed. He was very calm. He didn't feel pressed for time. In his mind, he was confident that the Prussians had been dealt with, that they were not going to be a factor. So he felt that he had time on his side. So that's why he appears relaxed. Which brings me back to what the French historians were saying about trying to make up the story that he wasn't feeling well. That's why he wasn't moving fast. He wasn't moving fast because he didn't think it was an issue, not because he wasn't feeling well. It is true about the mud. It was very muddy. Yeah, this scene is being exaggerated also. It's interesting that he said that you're my cannon. He was an artilleryman, that's true, but he actually took that man off artillery duty to command another unit because there was a chronic shortage of officers in the French army. The French army right now that we're seeing, it only had half its officers because not all the French officers agreed to serve under Napoleon when he returned because some of them were royalists.
Hmm.
In fact, at Charleroi, one of the generals under him was a royalist, and so he was a major general, and five of his men they defected to the Prussians, and they told him everything about what Napoleon was doing, what he was planning, and the size of his men, and etc. So that was one of the reasons why Napoleon was spreading out some of his experienced commanders, some of his royal guardsmen. He took some of his royal guardsmen and put them in other units. Okay, so see what he did there. He should have told Uxbridge to mump off. So they showed something that really happened. He never explained himself to Uxbridge ever because he didn't like Uxbridge, but they didn't really get into that in that scene. So that scene was that scene is okay. It's a funny scene.
I just love the shots are
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, this is amazing. Yeah. And by the way, it would have been 90-degree weather. Have you ever been in hot weather where it had recently rained, where it's really muggy weather? That's
Yes.
yeah, that's what the weather was like on this day. It was very muggy, so it would have been very uncomfortable wearing those uniforms. It's June 18th. It's 3 days before summer.
This is
Yeah,
amazing. It
yeah,
looks
yeah.
so
It looks
good.
wonderful. Yeah, it looks very wonderful. By the way, this is in Ukraine. The setting.
Hmm. It's stunning. It's a few steps away from virtual reality.
Yeah, it's a still shot. You see how the smoke isn't moving. It's kind of a still shot.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. That's amazing. Oh,
Yeah.
he's on a vehicle. He had to be. Yeah, that actually happened at Lindy the 2 days before. That was the first time that Wellington ever actually saw Napoleon through his looking glass. It was 2 days before this though, but they put that into this scene instead. Um, Something like that did happen where they asked if they could fire on him, but and he said no, but that wasn't the reason why he said no. He said no because he didn't believe that it was appropriate to target a head of state
Right.
and thus becoming an assassin. It's not the army's responsibility to act as an assassin, and so that's why he declined the order. He was not above that sort of thing, having a guy shot. I explained in a previous stream how he tried to assassinate a French general in Spain.
There's a lot of let's say military culture in this film, which is
Yeah,
like very interesting to see.
it is. Yeah. Where's the guy in the suit? There was a guy in a suit. Not in the scene though. Yes, that's funny. Yeah, I don't know if they actually said that stuff. That's funny though. I believe it. Soldiers can be pretty raw, especially British soldiers at that time. What a lot of people don't know is that British soldiers they had a reputation for being rough characters because a lot of times they were pressed into service from unsavory parts
Hmm.
of society. Like they empty the jails and say you can either be
Hmm.
in jail or you can join the army.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's
that's
unfortunate that that happened to so many of them.
yeah. So
And
that's
they
why the
talked
British
about
have a
that.
reputation for.
I think they talked about that in it might not have been Sharp, but in one of the series they talked about how yeah, it was in Horatio Hornblower. I think one of the soldiers had been pressed, and
Yeah.
one of the I'm sorry, not soldiers, but one of the sailors had been pressed into duty, and he hated it. Like he was someone who ended up turning against them.
Yeah,
So
it was more common than the Navy, yes. Because the British Army is tiny by comparison. Yeah, see what he said there. He's not afraid. Wellington's not afraid of his right. That's because he doesn't know about the Prussians yet. Wellington does. That's why he knows that the Prussians are going to approach from the direction closest to Wellington's left. That's why
So
his left was
Wellington has the
deliberately weak.
advantage.
Hmm?
Wellington has the advantage.
Well, he does, yeah. Wellington would not have stood his ground if he didn't know the Prussians were coming, and the fact that the French were that
Even
Grouchy's people were 34 further away.
even the toast scene here where they're, this whole thing, it looks very good. It has a very interesting feel to it, right before the let's say the engagement. It is very interesting.
Yeah, it is. It wasn't uncommon for them to do that too, like today's Fox and they all toast. Yeah, it was something they did.
That's not a vote of confidence.
He believed that he was a child of destiny. He believed in fate. He was very superstitious. That's why he couldn't believe it when he lost. He just couldn't get his mind around it. That's why he was always making excuses and blaming other people. Yeah, the Sharp series actually does a better job of making the battlefield look real.
Hmm.
This isn't quite what the battlefield looks like. The topography is all wrong, but that's fine. It's just a movie.
I mean, I have to be honest with you. I don't know all the details of what the battlefield is supposed to look like, but what I can say is this looks fantastic.
It does
Hello
look
to
fantastic.
Bonzo Kilborn, who says, "Hey, popping in to say hello." Well, hello to you, Bonzo Kilborn. Hope you're well tonight. Hope you've seen this film, Waterloo from 1970. We are actually more than halfway through the film. It's been fantastic so far. I've enjoyed every minute of this, from exaggeration to, more exact things. This is a beautifully made film, Darth Plato, and I'm loving every minute of it. I don't want it to end.
Hey, did you see that guy in the black suit with the top hat?
Yes, I did.
Okay, that guy, that's a British officer. But the reason why he's wearing a suit and top hat is because his luggage was misplaced and he lost his uniform. So I don't remember what his name was, but that really did happen.
He'll have to call the airline and maybe they can deliver it later.
So he had no choice but to go. But he had no choice but to go there in his ballroom suit. Yeah, and also there's actually a surprising amount of controversy in Napoleonic scholarship about when exactly this battle started, and people don't agree. Personally, I think it was 11:30 a.m. If Napoleon had known that the Prussians were coming, he would have moved much more quickly, like as in pre-dawn, not 11:30. Mud or no mud.
And this whole sequence here, as it starts, it looks amazing.
Yeah, it's called a
Even
photo
with the
fur.
smoke. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's called a photo fur.
Hmm. Even with the smoke obscuring a lot of what we're seeing, it it's great. It looks really good, and I don't care that we can't see certain parts of it. It feels quite realistic, and as if you're watching it, it's really wonderful.
Yeah. No, it's a good movie.
I think when I was talking to you about the notion of whether or not we had the feeling that the men were behind Napoleon, I have no doubt in this one, for those who decided to go to his side, that they do support him, which was something that I had doubts about in the last film. Here, I don't feel that necessarily.
No. That's because the movie was deliberately trying to show that he wasn't that kind of man. He was some other kind of man. This movie's not doing that.
And this is the type of man that he is. More or
Yes, it
less,
is.
let's say, a closer, because we'll never get the exact representation, but
No, no.
perhaps this is, yeah.
But this is good. Yeah. I don't know about
This
those
is nice
trees.
too. This is nice. It looks good.
Yeah.
It looks really good. It's interesting. It
All right.
feels like it's another.
All right. So the battle can be divided into 5 phases. This is the first phase. This is the. I was about to say the attack on Ujemont, and the battlefield was diagonal. So the French were on the southeast, and the Allies were on the northwest, facing each other. So they were about 1,000 yards apart, and there were several farmhouses in between them on the battlefield. So this is about the halfway point of the battlefield between the two main lines at the farmhouse of Ujemont. This is
And Darth
basically very
Plato,
well defended.
it looks so good. Like, I understand what's going on. I don't need, you're telling us the details. I don't know the details offhand. I'm not going to remember the details. It doesn't matter. I feel like I know what's going on in this film. I'm understanding that there are some very interestingly placed obstacles right in the middle of this. It's so interesting. Well, now he's comparing it to a chess game. It doesn't matter. It looks so good. I think that each individual character or each person who's playing these characters is sticking with whatever way that they're going to portray that character, and that's fine. Look at this. This really.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're
Oh
real
man, it
men.
looks so
They're real men in real action. It's not CGI.
yeah,
They're real costumes.
looks so good. Yeah, that is great looking. And this little forest, let's say this area where they're going through the trees is nice as well. You know, whether it was, I don't even know what the situation was, but honestly, it looks good.
Yeah, that's not true though. Wellington was actually very animated about it. He was constantly roving the battlefield, making personal observations and personal directives. So he wasn't just sitting there the entire battlefield. I'm not sure why they're saying that. And maybe he hadn't by this time of the battle. That's possible. But this isn't very. This is pretty early. This is early hours. Yeah, see here he is. He's moving around. The guy with the top hat. That's funny. Poor guy.
Wow.
That's look. Yeah, that's cool.
Wow.
Yeah, that's true. He did say that same old style. Except he said it later in the day, I think.
Well, this film really is a feast for the eyes, Darth Plato. And I
I
think
mean,
people were looking for that in the newer version of Napoleon. They were hoping for something that would do, I guess, even a fraction of what perhaps this film is doing and has done.
well, because this movie was trying to be fair, the other movie wasn't. Yeah, Wellington was very experienced fighting French. Napoleon was not experienced really that much with fighting British. They may be combining phase one and phase two here. I think they're jumping to phase two, which was Darlon's how do you say his name? Darlon's advance on Wellington's center left of his line.
And the music. Even the little drummer boys.
Yeah, I
Oh
think they would have been
no.
further. They would have been further in the back though. Snuff. That was a thing in those days. What a weird exchange. Yeah, he's presaging his own death right there.
Damn bad luck.
Get his
My mother is
uniforms.
watching Turner Classics right now, and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is playing. She was calling me and she said, "Did you want to see that?" I'm like, "I'm watching Waterloo, Mom. I'm watching Waterloo."
I'd rather watch Waterloo.
And guys, Tom Jr. Jackson here is to remind us you can join the Mock Squad member only call squad Zoom calls by becoming a PGS member for just 99 cents a month. Please do check it out, like and subscribe to the Burnettwork, everybody.
Yeah, it's hard to tell what phase of the battle they're in just from what they're doing.
I love this. I love the music.
I love that. I gotta look. I gotta look who that guy was. I don't remember who that guy was. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so this is they're merging phase one and two. Um, so they're countering Darlon's advance with the Scots Greys. So what really happened was that the French advance got to the ridge right on the British line, and there was a danger there of the line breaking, and the Royal Scots Greys counterattacked. They ran into battle shouting "Scotland forever." That must have been an amazing sight.
Yeah.
So I think this is what this is supposed to be. Scotland forever. The cuirassiers. Yeah, the French made an error here. They when they were marching forward, they didn't take the time to cut off La Saint, one of the farmhouses, from the British lines, and they could have surrounded
Hmm.
and destroyed it then and there, but they didn't do that.
I see.
And they didn't do that because they didn't know about the Prussians. Yeah, the Napoleon didn't know about the Prussians until about 1:30.
This is nice too. The slow mo.
So the Royal Scots Greys. Hmm?
This is nice. The slow motion. This is nice.
Yeah, a little bit of Zack Snyder there.
It looks good though. Look at that. That's a beautiful shot.
Yeah, by the way, when this movie was made, this was the seventh largest army in the world. That's how many. That's how many people were there. Yeah, this is definitely the second phase. This is what happened. Yeah, when the British counterattacked to push Darlan's corps back, they went too forward, and their momentum, for whatever reason, their momentum just carried them too far forward when the French counterattacked. So the British, who had been the one pursuing, then became the pursued, and this is what's happening here. They got pretty far close to the line, but that doesn't really matter. They couldn't be supported. Yep, there we go. Yeah, these were Punjabi's people. Yeah, there he goes. See, that's remember that story he was telling earlier about what happened. He's yeah, he was presaging this scene.
The bad luck story.
Yeah, So I think we're moving on to the third phase now, which was Nay's attack. Oh, this is Grouchy. This is further to the east. These were the French that were supposed to be chasing the Prussians. You're already divided. Yep, here come the Prussians. No, that's not true. He knew darn well they were the Prussians. They're just trying to make it dramatic.
And guys, we're about an hour and 38 minutes into this amazing watch party of Waterloo. About 30 minutes left. I can't believe it, Darth Plato.
Well, this is about the halfway point of the battle, so it makes sense. Yeah, remember I said earlier about La Haisant? Yeah, he's regretting now not taking it when he had the chance. So now they're gonna send. So now they're gonna send Ney to attack La Haisant, which they could have already done. So this is gonna unfold over the next 6 hours. What we're seeing here. Okay, he's quoting. They're quoting Napoleon's memoirs. His memoirs were not honest. He didn't collapse like that. Jesus. Yeah, yeah, they're quote. This is right from the French historians.
I don't even know. I think this is kind of unnecessary to show, because it kind of disrupts the momentum of what's going on in the battlefield.
You mean from a cinematic thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Because what they could have done, if they wanted to, would have been just to focus on, let's say, if they thought his health was bad, then just focus on that. But you can't focus on a battle and somebody being sick on the battlefield. Like, I'm like, it doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense when you're watching it.
It also didn't happen.
I'm not criticizing this film one bit, however, not at all. It's provided way too much entertainment quality that I've ever seen for this character. So I have absolutely no criticisms of this film whatsoever.
Then I'll do it then. Not saying it's a bad film. Not saying that. Boom. A hard pounding, gentlemen. We'll see who pounds longest. Yeah, this is another. Unfortunately, this is another myth. And Napoleon, I think, in his memoirs, contributed to the story. Yeah, what you're seeing here didn't happen. It's basically the French historians trying to make excuses for why Ney made an unadvised cavalry attack without support. There he is. There, see, yeah, see, yeah. It's good. It's good for TV, but it's not quite how it unfolded, unfortunately. The interesting fact about Marshal Ney from people that have especially researched him, is apparently he was suffering from PTSD.
Oh,
So he wasn't really fit for command, if that's true. He was kind of a crazy person. Oh no, I don't know. I think he had the equivalent of 42 Purple Hearts. Oh, there's the old. Oh, for goodness sakes! Yeah, this is the O'Hain Road thing. Yeah, so you see the ravine here where they're kind of going
yes,
down.
yes.
Yeah, that's a myth that was popularized by Victor Hugo in Les Miserables. Yeah, there was no ravine like this, and there was
I'll
no
have to look in the
crashing.
book because I don't remember that part in the book, but I'm sure it was because the versions that I've read have been mostly more of annotated, maybe not annotated and abridged editions. But I'll look in the original. I'll look in the original language and see if I can find where it says that after the show.
Just yeah, look for the word Ohane, Ohine.
O
That's what
Ohine.
Ohain. That's
O
what that
H
was.
A I N.
Yeah, that's what it
Okay,
was
got it.
supposed to be called. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, here's the
Oh, that's why.
squares.
Every time I type it out, it autocorrects it to the word chain. Ohain. It's still doing it. Stop autocorrecting. Ohain.
This is an
Okay.
amazing scene.
That looks now this is what we were supposed to see, right, Darth Plato?
Yeah, this is what we were supposed to see.
Okay. Well, this is dramatically different than what we saw in the previous film. Even I see a difference. And remember, I'm not a military strategist, nor am I going to remember everything, but this does look very different. It looks different.
Yeah, sometimes the squares were hollow. Sometimes they were all packed in.
I love it. It looks amazing. It looks amazing.
Oh, see. Okay, you see what he's doing there? Yeah, that's BS. He said that in his memoirs. He's not telling the truth. When he says that in his memoir, he's throwing Nay under the bus. He could see what was going on.
I see.
The reason why this attack was rushed is because they were trying. Because they underestimated the strength of the Allied line. They thought they could break them soon, and then turn their attention to the Prussians. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to rush this through. Like storm the castle, so to speak.
Hmm.
But the problem is that Wellington's too good a general for something like that.
To be honest with you, I think that the way that the film shows what, let's say, the most accurate version of what may have occurred on that day, it looks amazing.
It
It
does.
looks so good.
Poor Lord Hay. Yeah, he actually died 2 days before this. He did. He didn't die at Waterloo, but he was a young guy, unfortunately. Not sure what that guy's doing. What? We should get to know each other first.
It's amazing looking. Whew.
Yes, so Ugement still stands. La still stands. So those farmhouses are still there. So when the French cavalry attacked, they had to pass through those farmhouses, which means they're getting infilade fire from two directions.
Hmm.
Well, La was set on fire by that time, so maybe that wasn't such an issue. That could be it there. La on fire. They show that in the Sharp series too. The fall of La
Yes, I didn't know that, and I'm sorry, I should have known that.
Yeah, the British that were defending La ran out of ammunition, so there wasn't anything they could do. They only had 60 shots per man. As you can imagine, that would go by pretty quick. Yeah, years later, Wellington did acknowledge that that would probably one mistake that he regretted was not making better preparation for liaison.
I see.
See the Kuzma, that's still an issue. Yeah, people see how people around him are getting hurt.
Yes.
Yeah, that really happened.
And we have about maybe 10 minutes left of this film, Darth Plato. This really,
Everybody, go ahead.
I love the darkness in the film now. Like, it's, of course, it's a battlefield, but it's taken on a much more turbulent feel to it. And I love it. It really brings home the gravity of the loss of this battle. It's wonderful.
Yeah, everybody on Wellington's staff was either killed or wounded. He wasn't like safely way over here. He was quite involved.
Hmm. And I'm glad you pointed that out.
Okay, 6:30. Yeah,
It almost looks like they're inside of a hurricane or a storm.
yeah. I don't know where this windstorm
Well,
came
this is
from.
an artistic interpretation of, let's say,
It could
the winds of change, Darth Plato,
it could
if you
be.
will, the winds of change, and the winds of change of having the odds in your favor or not. And this could be, considered a change of favor for him at this point, from a certain point of view.
That's good. Yeah, I like that. I don't know what the wins were, but the fall of Le Assant was a serious development. That is true. But the by this time the Prussians were pretty close to engaging. They were already skirmishing. The main body of the Prussian army wasn't really engaged until about 6:30 p.m.
I'm just so impressed by what I've seen. Let's say, even from not even knowing very much about the details, I'm just so impressed by what they've been able to accomplish so far. And it's not even over. Like, this is, I can imagine going to the theater and seeing this in the theater, Darth Plato, in 1970, and what an experience this must have been.
Yeah.
And we got the music back.
Yep. Yeah, the fourth phase was the attack on Le Assant and Ney's charge. For the third, yeah, they amalgamated those phases. It is true that he did pull men off the left. That is true. That almost had consequences for the Prussians, though, because when the British started to fall back from the left, some of the Prussians observed these movements and say, "Oh, look, the British are retreating. The battle's already lost." And so there was some, and Blucher heard that, and he recalled the Prussians who were up in front. But the guy leading the attack was General Zieten. Zieten had enough combat experience to know that things aren't always what they seem. It's worth to take a second look. So he talked to somebody else that he knew that was experienced, who had been up in the front, and saying, "This is what I'm hearing. What do you see?" Like, "Oh, that report must be erroneous. The British aren't
Right.
retreating. They're redeploying to a line to forming a new line. The British are holding, and so he did not retreat. If they had retreated, that might have had disastrous consequences for the British, of course. Yeah, another thing that the movie does that it doesn't really tell you, unfortunately, there's 70,000 Allied troops there, but there is only 22,000 British. So they only made up about 1/4 of the army. Most of the army here is Dutch and Belgian and some kind of Germans. There were a lot of Germans here. But everybody's wearing red coats, so you don't really know that. There he is, Blucher. He was crazy. Doesn't he look crazy?
Who looks crazy?
Blucher.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean,
He looks crazy
they're
because
on
he really was crazy.
well, it's hard to judge because they're on a battlefield, and people look different when they're at war, don't they?
He was crazy. But he got up one day and he went to a surgeon and he's like, "Doctor, I think there's something wrong with me." I'm like, "Yes, sir, what's wrong?" "I think I've been impregnated by an elephant." And there was another occasion where he started taking his aides by the cuff of their collar and he started throwing them outside of his cabin. He took another guy and he threw him outside the cabin. He's like, "What's wrong with you? You've been hired by the French to heat my floors, to hurt my feet, and I want all of you out of here." He was crazy.
Even this shot here, that is just so amazing. This must have been a lot of fun to work on.
Yeah, and by the way, he was 73. And 2 days earlier, he was thrown from his horse and trampled on by his own horse.
Ew. Occupational hazard.
Yeah. Okay, what we're seeing here is the final phase of the battle. This is the advance of the Imperial Guard infantry. and the what the British like to call the thin red line. Yeah, we're getting to the end of it now.
And thank you so much, Darth Spam, who says 1815, Battle of Waterloo, 3 years after the British burned down the White House. Good to see you, Darth Fan. Hope you've been watching this film. Did you see
They
this film
didn't.
in the theater? Has anybody here had a chance to actually see this in the theater in 1970? Let me know. And thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, they set fire to the White House. They didn't burn it down. I mean, it wasn't called the White House in those days, but that's fine. Oh, see, you said there.
I think we understood what he meant.
Uh, yeah, he talked about a vibe one back in '7. Yeah, that something like that really did happen. He's talking about Marengo there, but that was like 15 years earlier. Yeah, Nate really did that. See where he's doing there, where he's trying to grab people and say, "Get in line." Yeah, he really did that. He was kind of
Thanks
nuts.
so much, Darth Spam, who says the War of 1812. Thank you so much for stopping by, Darth Spam. We so appreciate you being here.
Yeah, later
I
songs
can't
on
get
fire
over
that
the
time.
layers. I was saying I can't get over the layers in this film, Darth Plato.
Layers.
Yes, the layers, the content, the
Oh,
actions, the
yeah,
just everything in it. It's just layer upon layer of, you know, information. And it is unfortunate that so many people died in this battle, but it is entertaining to watch. This is a good
yeah,
rendition of what happened. This is really entertaining, and
yeah.
it's exciting.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. Now, a lot of the detail they're showing is true, but it's kind of mixed with some things that are kind of fanciful. Like they
We're
show
gonna have
Nate
to have
right
some
there.
fanciful shots, right, Darth Plato? There's gonna be certain shots we know we're gonna get that probably never happened, but we still have to expect that we're gonna see those and enjoy a little bit of that.
Yeah. No, but Nate really did that though. He stood there and he said, in front of a whole British regiment, he said, "Come see how Marshal of France dies," almost daring them to attack.
Now,
Pretty
Darth Plato,
crazy.
this film is winding down. Darth Plato, I can't believe that we are on the last few minutes of the film. An
Yeah.
epic film, I would say, of Waterloo that certainly gives you a specific impression of many of the important historical figures involved, and does it in a way that's almost perfect. It
Yeah.
really is a great looking film, filled with all types of approaches and comments and famous sayings from the battlefield, and even things that you mentioned may not be entirely true. It doesn't remove any of its effectiveness as a film. Would you agree?
I'm sorry, I was kind of captivated by that scene.
It's okay.
The the effect, yeah, the effect of his history or no, it's a fabulous movie. Yeah, there a specialist can watch a movie and say, "Yeah, that's not quite right. That's what I've been doing." Okay, that's fine, but I don't complain about this movie the way I did the previous movie we saw, the Napoleon movie. That was just a bad movie. That was just a bad movie. This is not a bad movie.
And I think it's really interesting too, Darth Vader, because we've watched three different versions of this of Napoleon's life. The mini series, television series, to me that was more of a romanticized version. I'm not saying it's not true or isn't true, but I did have a sense of romance in that film, strong romance from Armand Asante and Jacqueline Bisset in that
Yeah,
film, and it did have a different feel to it. Whereas, let's say the Napoleon, the one that we saw with Joaquin Phoenix, also a different type of feel. This one, another type of impression of Napoleon. And it is very interesting to see these different
I could,
depictions of
I could,
Napoleon.
I could see a son doing this.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the incident with Cambron.
Okay.
That's true. He did say that.
What did he say, Darth Vader? I couldn't hear it.
He said, "I hope this is my last battle." This is true. So they surrounded the French there because they advanced too far forward. They couldn't fall back, and they asked him to retire. And the guy said, "Merd, merd."
Mad.
Yeah,
Mad.
I hope I didn't get you demonetized.
No, it's okay. You haven't. Um, let's see. Okay, so we see the end, the pretty much the end right here, right? Darth Vader with the wife.
We're pretty much at the end. Yeah, yeah. This is the bit Victor Hugo here, a little Les Miserables. There it is. He said it. Yeah, they didn't execute them like that. They didn't go down like that. Like I said, it's very romanticized. Like refusing to surrender. No, we will not surrender. That's pure romanticism, though. Unfortunately.
Well, I think they wanted to give the viewer the impression that they were not going to succumb to surrendering completely. They wanted to have this final stand, and I'm not quite sure why that was important in this film, Darth Plato. I'm not quite sure why,
I think what they were
other than
trying
to
to. I'm
make.
sorry.
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Now, I'm not quite sure why they decided to do that for the sake of this film. Maybe they wanted to truthfully have a scene where they everything has even more carnage to it than before. As if we have not seen enough carnage, there must have been some reason as to why they decided to add more to that and to show perhaps more debauchery. I'm not sure if that's the case, but
Mhm.
I
Um,
can't personally
I said
understand.
I think I said something earlier about this. What they're trying to do, they're trying to balance both sides, the British and the French. So the British historians, French historians. That scene there with the surrounding of the French and shooting them all because they said married. That's a pretty well-known story in French history, and you see it in Victor Hugo. And I think that's why it's put into the movie because it's a well-known thing on their side, and that's why they're
Mhm.
putting it in.
And
The
you're
same thing
saying
with the
it's,
Johan Road. Exactly the same thing as the
you know,
Johan Road.
most people who read you're talking about when you say Victor Hugo's writings, you mean in Les Miserables, correct?
Right.
So most of the renditions that people are reading have a lot of that political stuff and comments about people of the time removed. So most people are reading versions of the book that don't include those details. However, I happen to have a copy, Darth Plato. It's not in
Okay.
English, but I'm going to do my best to read it and see if I can find that part in the book. But I'm glad you brought it to my attention. Not very many people I know actually care about all that political stuff in Les Miserables.
Yeah. See if you can find the chimney scene too. There's a very vivid description of a chimney.
Okay.
By the way, did you read my poem?
I have not had a chance to read that yet, Darth
Oh,
Leto, but I should.
you were supposed to read that before you saw the movie. I'm sorry.
I didn't know that you didn't have directions for that. I didn't realize that I was supposed to have read that, and I apologize. I was unaware of that, but I assure you I will read it um, before we meet again. I assure you. I'm sorry I did not know that I was supposed to read that at that time. So, but
Yeah,
it's on my list of things to read.
it's in English and French.
Oh, okay. I'm looking forward to reading it. And here we are, everybody.
Yeah.
What a fantastic film from start to finish, for the music, the cinematography, the costumes, the balls, the debauchery, the fighting, the different phases, even though they were combined. Just everything in this was amazing looking. I enjoyed it immensely. I feel like I understand a little bit more about how this battle was
Right.
fought.
Right.
Really,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. You actually you watched the movie and you walked out gaining something. Unlike going to see 2023 Napoleon, you actually lose something.
You lose something.
That watching sitting seriously watching Napoleon was like sitting in the waiting room for a lobotomy. And there's that quote I gave you at the beginning of the broadcast.
Yes, I do. I so enjoyed that quote from you, Darth Plato, here, which I'm pulling up. Only the battle lost is half as melancholy as the battle won.
That's spoken by a man who understood war. By that,
Yes.
yeah, that was that. By that time, he fought 70 battles. Most of them were in Spain.
And I think this is really interesting, Darth Plato. Maybe, I'm not sure if you are feeling this as you're watching this part, but I almost feel a little sorry for Napoleon at the end of this story, even though I knew the outcome before I started watching this film. Was
I
that
could
the intention? You did?
quite possibly. Look, I know people who think that who say they wish Waterloo had gone the other way. I can introduce you to them. They
Well, what
do.
I'm trying to
They
say,
don't like talking about Waterloo. They like talking about Austerlitz.
what I'm trying to say is that from a cinematic point of view, the film does, despite everything, despite all his accomplishments, despite the final outcome, there is a certain sense of sadness focused on Napoleon at this point. And
Yeah, I think
I
that.
am feeling that sadness.
Yeah, I think that's part of the balance, though. Is they showed the extensive scene of Wellington going on the battlefield and looking over his team. He's a human being. I don't think he could not have been touched by that. He was an arrogant guy who cared about his reputation. That's true, but he was still a human being. And there's no way you can observe something like that and not feel something. And
Because it doesn't feel as if it's his dreams that have been dashed. It feels as if it's the dreams of everyone who was behind him that have been dashed. That's what this feels like. And I think it's a very interesting feeling. And certainly, maybe it does reflect the reality of how many people might have felt upon his defeat. Um, what an amazing film, and what an amazing.
he okay from the rest of his life for that what turned out to be 6 years. He was absolutely obsessed with this battle. He was trying to get his mind around what had happened. And like I said, he believed in fate. He believed in destiny. He believed that he was destiny's favorite. And one time, an artist commissioned an art piece of him standing there with a figure of destiny in front of him, like leading the way. But Napoleon rejected it because, oh, destiny has her back to me, so destiny would never do that, and so he rejected the art piece. So that kind of tells you the superstition of the man. He literally believed that he was fated to do what he was doing, to be where he was. And so when Waterloo transpired, I really do think that he was unable to grasp what had happened and why it happened. And that's why you see him writing in his memoir the thing he did. He did everything you can imagine to just throw everybody under the bus. Everyone who ever served that, he just threw them all under the bus. And then unfortunately, it's very unbecoming that he did that, unfortunately.
Well, Darth Plato, this was maybe the most perfect time to watch a movie like this after having seen a film that had quite a bit of chatter, this new version of Napoleon, starring Joaquin Phoenix and Vanessa Kirby, to this film Waterloo from 1970, which was made, excuse me, 50 years ago. Darth Leto, 50 years ago, in the last century, this film was made, and certainly it makes an incredible impression for me watching it for the first time in 2023. And I think for anybody watching it for the first time, this is a film that you're not going to forget because it's pretty much perfect. I think there were a lot of very interesting nuances, Darth Plato, where they chose to have this ball. And of course, the ball is supposed to be the background for, the peace and the beauty and of course the carnage that's going to come. And we know that it didn't happen that way. However, as I say always in a film, when a film is great, even if they do take artistic license, we can overlook certain things because the rest of the film has such a high quality and certainly incredible production quality. Congratulations to this production crew. You said that this is the most extras ever in a film, and it shows that authenticity. We were talking about authenticity, that word authenticity. That authenticity makes a difference, especially in a film like this where you need to have authenticity. Because let's face it, Darth Plato, this is not a simple story, is it? This is one of the most complex stories of a man who's fought over 60 battles, and now he's at the battle, the final battle.
Between it
I
was
think that
a hundred, it was 142 battles between the two of them.
Right. And it's not going to be a simple story, is it, Darth Plato? It can't be
No,
simplified. This particular interpretation, let's say, of everything that was there and things were combined. Of course, you said this was not the 10 years that the previous film had covered, but I think it was so important for it to get that right. Darth Plato, I'm actually flabbergasted by the notion of the barn scene. Of course, the one I'm referring to, and probably everybody here who is here knows what I'm referring to, that was not done accurately because it was so incredibly dramatic. And it character itself in this battle. And also the scene, and I don't know what part it is, maybe it's stage 4, where they have those the soldiers form those I guess triangles or hexagons or
squares.
octagons, what squares, whatever it was. My point is that I thought that was incredibly um, difficult to fight against when you see it in the proper context, right, Darth Plato? Because it didn't look simple. It looked quite complex, and it looked like you were in trouble. As soon as if you stepped on the battlefield and you saw that, you knew you were going to be in trouble. You knew you
Wait,
weren't
wait.
just walking out of there.
Well, you had to do it very quickly. You had to drop what you were doing and do it because, and I hope I'm not stating the obvious here. Horses move pretty quickly on a battlefield, so you can be overtaken pretty quickly. A square can be broken. There's an instance I think in 1812 at Garcia Hernandez, I think is the name of the place where the square was attacked and broken. So it can be done. It's not an easy thing to do.
And I certainly think you're absolutely right about that. I do like the level of complexity that they decided to show on the battlefield. Certainly, it was somewhat more sophisticated way, even of showing it, because they didn't have to do all this. They didn't have to go to this extent. I think
Well,
that
it's
they wanted to show something that was spectacular, Darth Plato.
yeah, but it's more complex because there's more people involved. That's part of the reason why it's so complex. There's like 15,000 extras, I think. I'm not sure what the exact number is. That's huge. This is the biggest movie that ever made in terms of the number of people involved on screen. I think. I don't
Yeah,
know how many
and
was at
and
Gettysburg. There were a lot in Gettysburg too, but this is a bigger movie.
this is a
Um,
bigger movie, and it certainly has a different feel from Gettysburg. And I'm not saying I'm not comparing the two necessarily because I don't want
no,
to. But what I
no.
did want to say was that even this film, Darth Leto, even this film that focused on the battles, that focused on what I called military culture, which I love all that stuff. Even this film that was so heavily focused on it, where even the women were like, "Oh, I don't want this soldier to go away," and I had coyly said, "Oh, have no fear, my love. There will be many more officers, out there for you, even after the battle is fought." My whole point of this is that even in a movie that focused heavily on a battle, even that film had some romance in it, Darth Plato. Even that film, even just a smidgen of dancing around in a ball, which we know was not accurate, but it did not matter. They wanted you to have that romanticism. They wanted you to have the romanticism of Napoleon himself, which was strong. It was strong, and you could feel the romanticism. You could feel the desire to be around him, to see him, almost even to touch him. It's like almost like idolatry in a sense. You know, this is their version of trying to recreate something that we know can never be recreated. But if you had to, this might be something I'd want to do, where he almost walks around and there's this, people start to have this feeling where they're overcome by it. It's like he's a rock star, or you know, it's unexplainable. But I just think it's miraculous how it was portrayed in this, because you knew when he got out there and he kind of had his hands behind his back and they chose not to show him, they were showing his hands and his movements, and he knew that he could depend on these soldiers because they loved him. They loved him. Didn't matter he was gone for a year. They wanted so bad to be back with the person that they were happy with. I think that happiness, that joy, that determination, they're willing to die for this. I think that was so important, and it was great to see it. Even hearing the English women speak about, she said, well, you know, I'm a bit of a Napoleonite. Even I am a bit, even I have a little bit of a I fancy him. I really think he's fantastic. To even say that right before these guys, yes, and but to even say that right before the men that you're dancing with, who are going to put their lives on the line to kill him, are going to war. My goodness, the boldness, the audacity of it all. I'm not quite sure whether I'd ask her for another dance, but Darth Plato, it got its point across. It got its point across. His reach was maybe limitless at a point. Let's say for all the parties involved, even, you know, despite the fact that he was the enemy for all practical purposes, didn't feel like those women thought he was the enemy. In fact, they were like, oh, can I go to the battle? I'm almost wondering if she wanted to go to the battle just to see a glimpse of Napoleon, and not perhaps to accompany her soldier friend. That's the nuance, the romance, the little, you know, subtleness of what we're playing with. I think it is intriguing. And even now, as I said, at the end of the film, even though I knew what was going to happen, we all knew what was going to happen, but I couldn't help but feel a little, you know, sorry about how that happened. Goodness gracious, what a film that can bring you through all these emotions and feelings. And history can be exciting like this when done right, in the right cinematic context, Darth Plato. And I think we saw that here. What are some other things that you wanted to say about the film that you have not said but would like to say?
Well, I think rather than drowning us in an academic lecture, I'm just going to say that the movie is more correct than wrong, and where it is wrong, it's really kind of it's a kind of an, I understand why they did what they did, and I don't think it detracts. I don't think it detracts from the majesty of this movie. It really is a profound movie, and
Well, I'm glad you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, that's it.
Thomas Bartoli, I just want to do a little shout out to you, Thomas. Been seeing you on Facebook. I hope you are well, Thomas Bartoli. So good to see you here. We just watched an incredible.
Thank you for coming, Thomas, and everybody here.
Yes, thank you, everybody, for being here. We just watched such an incredible movie. Might be one of the best movies I've ever seen, Darth Plato. So I also want to throw that out there. In regards,
the pageantry is really high end.
Yeah, and I also, was that the scene with the barn? I don't know if I'm saying the right one, Darth Plato. I'm sorry, but the scene with the barn, if that's the same one, but I'm sorry if it's not. But the barn scene was, you know, I think, you know, you go through different. I always say, and guys, make sure you subscribe to Tom Jr. Jackson's YouTube channel. He's got it up here. Make sure you check out Tom Jr. Jackson's YouTube channel, guys. He's the guy who's moderator pretty much for all the shows on the Burnettwork. Please do support Tom and other creators on the channels on YouTube. all the endeavors. Thank you, Tom. We are all goof people. Tom, thank you so much for everything. I always talk about how one of the reasons why I like sex scenes and kind of romance and stories, because it does allow the story to also progress. And I think it's the same in battles, Darth Plato. It's the same in battles. We didn't see those barns in the Napoleon film. They chose, let's say, not to show that in the battle. There's short version of the Battle of Waterloo. But I thought it was very interesting because there was definitely this progression of the story as each sequence took place. Darth Plato, you were not in the same spot you were when they entered onto the battlefield 20 minutes ago. Things had changed. And as I had said to you, the way that they showed the weather and the wind, there was kind of this turbulence to it. And it was almost as if, like, the favor, whoever had favor in winning now, that has all changed now. Just like as if the wind were blowing. And now, at first you had the advantage. Now you don't. It was done so well. You got that sense while watching that at the end. It was quite dramatic, even though we know it took a certain period of time, obviously much longer than the movie. But I loved that they chose to do that in certain sequences in a certain way. But that barn sequence, Darth Plato, was very important. We needed to see this progression. We needed to see these different actions, because when we didn't see them, it trivialized the battle. That's just my opinion. For me, viewing it trivialized the battle. It's not that important. We'll show the squares, but that's it. And then we can go. No, you needed to see the barn. And the barn felt like this. It was a part of the battle, but it felt like an obstacle in a sense. How do you use the barn to your advantage? How do you do this? So I kind of liked seeing it, and it had a feeling to it. It had like a character to it, and I liked that. So I think it is interesting how it also progressed the story. Once they got past that part, now the story's progressed to another level, and now we're at another level, and it builds upon what you've learned. Am I going to be able to recite all this to you? No, and that's not the impression when you go see these films. The impression is, do you understand the impact that these characters have had on history? Do you understand what has traversed between them in different times? And in this moment in Waterloo, do you understand the magnitude and the gravity of this? And I think you do get that in this film. You get a lot of that, and the romance, and pageantry, and costumes, and excellent cinematography, and 15,000 extras, horses, swords, guns. This was an amazing performance by all of these actors. Really just so much fun, Darth Plato. This really was a lot of fun to watch.
I'm glad to hear that. And also, I didn't realize that you were a pro Bonapartist.
I'm pro. Well, I should be very clear. I do not know all of the details, so I'm not going to pretend as if I am an expert on this period of time. I am pro romance. And as far as I'm concerned, you can't kill an idea when it comes to swaying people to your side. So, people can have an impression of what they think is right or wrong. They have an idea, and that idea is preventing them from allowing you to persuade them to what you want them to do. And I think any
you
character
can't destroy
that
an idea, you can just discredit it.
Well, an idea in someone's mind. So the idea that Napoleon was able to push the right button in the people of that day. There was something that he was able to do that made people feel fulfilled. They were missing something. He's there. It's fulfilled. I kind of like that. I kind of find this very appealing. And it's very difficult in a sense to get that, to buy that from people, to speak to them and convince them in a debate to your side. But he didn't have to, because he knew exactly what would appeal to people. And I think that that's something else. That factor.
Yeah, not to be contrary, but in Napoleonic scholarship, this would be called pro-Napoleon. An anti-Napoleon would be
I am
It would
neither
be the
pro
opposite.
nor against Napoleon. I am neither pro nor against Napoleon. What I'm saying is I always find it fascinating when it comes to film and television, or,
Mhm.
let's say audiobooks, dramatizations, when someone is able to capture that and you understand why there are some people who are for that and some people who are against it. For example, I do understand military strategists who want to beat Napoleon. I get that. And I certainly don't think that they're incorrect or correct for doing that. This is a battle, and we're going to watch how this plays out. And both sides, um, have a very interesting way of approaching things. But it doesn't necessarily mean I favor one or the other. However, I do want to say that I like romance, Darth Plato. And no matter whatever way you put it, there was a certain level of romance, almost as if they were lulling you. They were lulling you. It's a big battle, but you sure you don't want to look and see what Napoleon's up to? Because he's kind of interesting. We all think he's kind of interesting. The men, none of those officers said that. They did not think he was interesting. And I think that that's something to think about, because the romanticism of it all is very different from the realities of stepping out onto a battlefield when you have to fight that person
Yeah,
for
and
real, isn't it, Darth Plato?
yeah, and how they showed that in this film is a complete stark contrast to how we saw in the last movie in 2023. That scene, as you said, the romance part, but also the scene where they show Bonaparte on his knees, reminiscing about the son that is missing and what had happened, and wanting to be reunited and wanting to reconcile with his with Marie Louise. They showed that was a pretty extensive scene. They showed he was very emotional. That they
Mm-hmm.
didn't you didn't see that aspect of you didn't see that from Napoleon in 2023 at all.
Mm-hmm.
In 2023, he's just a crazy person. That's it. There's nothing more to it than that. And by the way, Ridley Scott literally said that. He said that there's no difference between Napoleon and Hitler. Well, there you go. If
You
that's
know,
what you believe, then you can't possibly show him any
I'm
kind of positive light.
I'm not an expert on that person either. So I can't comment. I'm not an expert on that
Go
historical
go
figure.
with your gut. Go with your gut feeling.
I don't consider them the same.
They're not.
But like I said, Darth Plato, I think that by using the contrast of the, let's say, the young ladies and the Napoleonites
Yeah.
in the ballroom dancing with the very men that being pushed out there may be killed by him is a certainly interesting contrast, wouldn't you say, Darth Plato? This is a man that you care about, and you're kind of jokingly saying that I would never say that to a man I'm sending out to the battlefield who has to fight him. I think that perhaps there was a sense, a little bit of disregard for the dangers that these men faced on the battlefield. And certainly they didn't see this as something that the men didn't even comment on it. They just listened. And I think that, it does speak volumes, don't you think? I think what I'm really trying to say is I like that they did that, because it certainly, I'm not going to say the ladies were trivializing the war, but it certainly was more serious than just saying that you like someone. And I think that they got that across too, when we saw all these men dying in it. So I think it did an additional appeal there. But there is romance. Yes, I do like the romance. I admit it. I like the romance. I think that they almost have to romanticize that version or that time period. All the men look great in their uniforms, and
Hmm.
everybody's dressed so beautifully. There is a certain sense of this, and people looking their best even on the battlefield. So I did want to mention that too. You almost had to romanticize that era. The music was wonderful. The singing of the soldiers, Darth Plato, I really enjoyed that.
I figured
So
you would. Yeah, I figured you would. That's why it was. That's one of the reasons why this movie comes to mind as a contrast to 2023. And that, and of course the TV movie as well. Even though it is kind of a lower production, I admit. Yeah,
yes.
they would be called Bonapartists, by the way, not Napoleonites, but that's fine.
Well, I'm sorry if I got it wrong, but you understand what I'm really getting
Yeah.
to. And of course, I don't know. There might be more than one person with the same last name, so I have to be very careful. Uh, Tom Jr. Jackson says, I've been working on some videos today, so new content is coming. Thank you, Tom, for letting us know. And Thomas Bertoli, we're just wrapping up the show now. Just want to thank everybody who stopped by here again. And Darth Plato, it's such a pleasure talking about a film that we've been enjoying. You and I have been enjoying this. This has been so much fun to talk about. I want to thank Daniel Barry Sports. Ms. Martin Uses was here earlier. Julian was here as well. I'm just waiting for it to load up for some reason the system. Mr. Fixit was here too. Good to hear those comments. Bonzo Kilborn. Darth Spam. Thanks, Darth Spam, for stopping by. And of course, Thomas Bartoli. So I do want to thank all of you for coming here. Darth Plato, where can people find you? And I
was just reading the chat. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, Julian was here. Yeah, Julian was here. He said, "Damn my eyes! I misquoted that line from Wellington. Which quote?" Mr. Fixit was here. The Soviet Army being put to good use. Yeah, it was put to good use. Yeah, 15,000 guys. Oh yeah, is that it?
Yeah, it is. Darth Plato, where can people find you?
You can find me right here on the It Show and on the Positive Fandom.
Absolutely, guys. You can find Darth Plato on Positive Fandom, but you can also find him on the Burnettwork, along with Tom Jr. Jackson. Guys, they are both part of the Burnettwork family. And of course, you can find me on Positive Fandom as well as the Burnettwork. Guys, it's such a pleasure to bring you a movie like this to talk about something made over 50 years ago, but done so brilliantly. And again, I want to thank Tom Jr. Jackson, my moderator, collaborator, and good friend, for everything that you do. We are all good people, Tom Jr. Jackson. Make sure you check out his YouTube channel. And on behalf of everybody on the Burnettwork and on Positive Fandom, just want to thank you all for being here. And remember, guys, no matter where you are in the galaxy, always remember to please be kind. Take care, everybody.